Peace and welcome to another episode of Artistry, where art meets industry. We are your hosts, Rahzel Etienne-Robinson and Stan Substantial Robinson. Season 4 of Artistry is powered by Words, Beats, and Life. Peace. And welcome to Artistry, where art meets industry. We are your hosts, Rahzel Etienne-Robinson and Stan Substantial Robinson. Happy Wednesday, folks. What can we say? What's going on with you?
Man, I'm out here, you know what I'm saying, chilling, trying to stay all the way out the way.
Good. I appreciate
How about you?
that.
How you feeling?
It's Wednesday. We're almost there. Almost at the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
So, but we have a special, every day is special.
Yeah, we always have special guests, but this is one of the many special people in our lives that we are blessed to call friend.
Absolutely.
And amazingly talented, as are all our guests. But this guy, yeah, man. I mean, I'm gonna let you read the bio, but I'm gonna freestyle a little bit, because this is bro. This is big bro.
Well, if you are joining us for the first time, welcome to Artistry, the Artistry podcast, where we are joined by visual and performing artists or arts administrators to discuss their creative journey. If you are already a subscriber, hey, welcome back.
Yeah, welcome.
Today's guest is an American MC, producer, singer, songwriter, designer, filmmaker, and record executive.
Mm-hmm.
He first gained national recognition on the underground hip-hop scene after winning a string of distinguished rap battles.
Saw it firsthand.
He is open for Common, Rahzel, the Beatnuts, Royce the 5'9", and Brand Nubian. He has appeared as a guest artist on several releases, including Masta Ace, Pumkinhead, Cunninlynguists, Immortal Technique, and KRS-One. In 1997, he founded the Q&5 music label and continues to release music independently. In 2017, he released his documentary, Polyoptics, The Formation of Polymer, which chronicles the creation of his multi-part second LP, offering a deep dive into the formative experiences behind his songs. Please welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen, Tonedeff.
Yes, indeed.
Tony. How are you?
Good to be here. I'm happy to hang out with y'all.
Well,
hey, man.
Thank
Great
you for
to see
joining
you,
us on the podcast. We are so happy to have you and learn more about your journey. The funny thing is, and we say this all the time with this show, is that you can know somebody, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can know them, hang out with them, break bread, drink, whatever. But, as far as knowing their story, a lot of us don't know. And so this has been a great experience for us to learn more about our folks. And so we thank you for being here.
Yeah, man.
Sweet.
Yeah,
I'm happy to share.
You see us repping. See us repping in the back.
Oh,
I see it now.
Do you see?
You know what I'm saying?
I see it now.
Back,
You got the Politics 12-inch single. And you also have the special edition of Polymer on the wall. Very, very fancy, my friend. Thank you.
Yeah. We had to rap. You know what I'm saying? I was like, go through the collection real quick. Boo, boo, boo. Yeah, man.
Yeah. Let me take this Neil Sedaka record off top and pull it out from underneath.
Right.
Dust this off.
Right. Yeah, man. But no, I've been looking forward to chopping it up with you, bro. Definitely. Yeah, man. God, man, like, how many years have we known each other at this point?
It's been
let's do the math, shall we?
Yeah, I know it was late 90s,
Okay, so it is now 2023, right? And I moved to New York in 98. I want to say 1999 was when I met Pac and Stan and you and everybody. So about 24 years.
Wow. Yeah, man. It's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy.
As long as we get together.
Yeah, for sure.
It's almost a quarter century.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, bro. That's
crazy.
Wow.
It's crazy.
That's amazing. That's amazing, man.
We were just some young whippersnappers.
Yeah.
You know.
But yeah, man, how so obviously these past 3 years have been
exciting.
Yeah, to say the least. How have you been holding up during the pandemic? Because I know that one of the things I know about you is, you definitely kind of keep your finger on the pulse of what's happening, like in terms of public health and safety and this, that, and the third. You're a person that, like, for all the years I've known you, when something's going on in the world, it's like, yeah, probably shouldn't go there, bro, because they're dealing with this. So how have you been holding up with this? Because I know it's been a lot for you.
I think I mean the pandemic is like a collective trauma. I feel like everybody went through, which is crazy because like when have we had that since Spanish flu back in the day? You know what I mean?
Right.
And like we all in the world, everybody has like COVID stories at this point. But for me, I think like the where I was in my head mentally and just I'm already a hypochondriac, so like I quarantined for like 8 months straight. I didn't leave the apartment, maybe 9, but me and my partner stayed in the same apartment and never left for like 8 to 9 months because nobody knew what was going on. It was like people just weren't sure what was happening. We were just getting all this crazy misinformation, this and the CDC says this, and then MAGA people saying this, and then some people are like, "Yeah, you're all gonna die," And I'm just like, I'd rather just stay in here and play Last of Us. You know what I mean? And so
that way you can be prepared just in case that
survival training for the apocalypse.
Survival training, pretty much. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Which is crazy. So like when I tell people that, they're like, "What?" Like, yo, and it does a number on you. You know what I'm saying? So like you get a little bit agoraphobic, blah 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 blah, and you start like fearing going outside and shit. Like eventually, obviously, I'm fine now. I've been out. I go to the movies. Like everything is manageable now. I still mask up. You know what I'm saying? If I'm in a crowded space or I go to the supermarket, I'll still mask up. But when I'm outside, I'm good. You know what I'm saying? I don't have a mask on. I'm just walking around. But for the most part, it definitely set me for a loop. But I will say this: it kind of like I kind of feel like everybody had those stories where like I started working out. Like I learned a new hobby. I'm on my Peloton. And like I didn't do any of that shit.
You didn't learn how to crochet?
No. No, but what I did do was I produced a lot. I made a lot of music, and like and I think that coming out of I don't want to get too deep into this, but coming out of Polymer, my last album, the Herculean effort of making a movie and an album, a multi-part album, and the whole multimedia experience over that long, it burned me out so bad that I needed a break. And so I fell back to what I love, which is making beats and making music, like not writing, but just like fucking around on my synthesizer, and like seeing what happens and coming up with stuff. And so I just had this treasure trove of production. And now it's all coming out with these definition series that I'm putting out now in the next couple of weeks.
So
yeah, man. Yep. No, definitely looking forward to all the music you've been cooking up. And quick sidebar, that is an awesome hat you have on, by the way. Just wanted to throw that out there.
Yes. Yes, I was telling Stan earlier that I've been getting compliments on this cat. So he sent this to me. I got, I mixed the record, you know what I'm saying? So I get like free shit. You know what I'm saying? I mixed that shit. So this is my payment. He paid me in a hat. No, I'm just kidding.
Yes,
he actually paid me. Thank you. So this hat is so fire. When I go out and I'm just out and about and around, people literally like, yo, the hat is amazing. Where'd you get that hat? So if you haven't got this hat, go get the hat. It's so fire.
Oh, look at that.
We didn't pay him to say that. I did pay him to do other things for the record, but I didn't pay him to say that. But
correct. The endorsement wasn't part of the deal.
Right. But back to you.
So speaking of, let's go back to the beginning.
Ish.
Right. So what was because you're someone that's interested in many forms of art. What was your first introduction to art, and how old were you?
Oh man. Okay, so I always just knew. It's hard to explain. But I just always knew that I was an artist. There was never any sort of second thought about any of it. I just knew it, So my earliest memories are literally drawing cartoons and I was obsessed with drawing. I would draw constantly. I ended up going to, to art school, the New World School, the New World School of the Arts in Miami, for fine arts and illustration, and I just always knew, So I think around the time when I was a kid, I'll put it this way. There was a broken piano in one of the apartments that we lived in. Rat infested Chicago ass apartment. And there was a broken upright piano that was there when we moved in. And it didn't work. And it was completely like all the keys were fucked up. It just didn't work. And I just remember obsessively just trying to get it to work, and like the frustration of not being able to like play anything on it was so annoying. And so very early on I knew that like there was a want there, like an unfulfilled want to create music, but so essentially I started drawing. I became a b-boy super early on, when everybody was out there with the linoleum and the cardboard, and it was late to Chicago. So it was a couple years late in Chicago. I was in Chicago till I was 13. And so, hip hop was like becoming like the culture was emerging heavily in Chicago at the time. And I got swept up in it. So I was tagging, and I was drawing, and I was b-boying. I was learning how to dance, but I was like, 7, 8 years old and obsessed. And then when I knew, like when I got injured very badly as a child, I was trying to headspin, and apparently your neck muscles aren't strong enough to support your weight as a child. So I was trying to headspin, and I like destroyed my neck essentially. So I was in a neck brace for like 2.5, 3 months.
Oh, wow.
And I couldn't dance anymore. And so I went from dancing, because I was obsessed with dancing, into just a drawing and then writing. And then one day, I got obsessed with like Sugar Hill Gang and LL Cool J and like everything Def Jam was putting out. And when Beastie Boys released License to Ill, that was the first cassette tape I ever bought with my own money.
Wow.
And then I just started rewriting. I would listen to their shit and memorize it and rewrite their rhymes with my own rhymes. And that's how it started. And then next thing you know, I just started making up stuff in my hallway with a tape recorder, just like, but I just always knew that I was an artist. I've never had any doubt whatsoever about what I wanted to do, ever.
Wow.
Now I do.
Right.
Now I have many doubts.
When you're young, you have no fear, right? You just go
Right.
out there and do it. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever told that story before, so thank you for that.
Nice.
That's
Exclusive. No. Right.
You heard it here first.
Right. No, and so it's funny. So you talking about how you started writing and how you fell in love with it is a perfect segue to like, time. A lot more time passes. You're starting to do this on a regular basis. You're putting out your own music. Like, so you have, over the years, I mean, I've known you for over 20 years. So I've heard people compare you to a wide variety of artists. But there's definitely like a signature like Tonedeff style type of delivery you had. I've seen you be a chameleon and do a ton of things, but you definitely have musically have created your own brand, so to speak. And so how did you go about developing that style? And then how would you define it? How would you define it to other folks if you had to explain what it is you do?
So I think like the easiest approach, the easiest summation of, what it is I do lyrically is I say it as an ad lib on Case Closed. This is a song on my Archetype record. I say,
Great song.
I am a hi-hat. I'm a hi-hat. I try to play with beats with rhythm the way that jazz musicians play with hi-hats. And that is a very distinct way to play with rhythm. It differs from piano. It differs from sax. It differs from, you know, any other instrument in a band. The hi-hat, you know, obviously the drummer is the backbone, right? But the hi-hat, when you get fancy with a hi-hat as a jazz drummer, it's doing some incredibly difficult shit. And because you have two hands, you're able to do things with a hi-hat, you know, that you can't necessarily do with one tongue, right? So I try to get as close to a hi-hat as I possibly can. Like, what would a jazz drummer do here? You know?
Yeah.
In terms of like how I got here, I think it's just a combination of just being as old as I am and seeing like all the waves, you know, of shit come in and out of style. Where you know my early influences, you know, obviously, you know, all the Def Jam shit. LL Cool J I was obsessed with LL Cool J. I was obsessed with Public Enemy. I was obsessed with Beastie Boys. I was obsessed with, and then I started to get like really technical about where does he breathe, when is he taking a break, when is, you know, and then I heard then you hear Rakim and you're like, oh, okay, so there's like a certain kind of like rhyme pattern, and then you hear Kool Moe Dee and he's doing a little bit more complicated shit, and then you hear Def Jep and this motherfucker's just rhyming every word, and you're like, oh shit, and then the DOC and you're just like, oh my god, and then it's, you know, and then like every rapper that I would hear was like collecting the fucking Infinity Stones, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I just wanted to collect all the Infinity Stones and just like wield them, and and essentially, and I'll say this, as an MC or as an artist in general, you start out mimicking to learn. Yeah. And as you get older and as you practice your craft, the idea is to break the old knowledge of what you had into something new, like eventually combine enough of these things where it is now yours, where you no longer sound like anyone else, you know? And so like if you go back to almost anybody's early work, they always sound like someone else. And by the end of their career, they are themselves. So art is truly the expression of self-realization. You know? Yeah. And so yeah, like not to elongate the answer any more than I need to, which I feel I have. But it was getting to here was, you know, learning every style and then trying to combine it all in a way that I knew that was mine, that I knew that it was only mine uniquely, and only I could do this thing because I put 30 plus years into learning the craft.
Right.
You know?
Right. It's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. And then breathe.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Don't forget that part.
Right.
And then breathe.
And then breathe.
Right.
After you do all of that. You know, I mean, Tone, you are very multi-talented. I mean, we've talked about this in length, but you know, you are, as we showed earlier, you know, you draw, you're an illustrator, you are a music producer, you're audio engineer, you're a filmmaker, and we'll talk more about that a little later. You know, with all these things that you've done, and you do them very well, all of them, which medium would you say brings you the most joy?
I definitely would have to say like music production. You know, it like when I was younger, I would have said like writing rhymes or drawing. Drawing used to bring me a lot of joy as a kid, but then I just got like impatient with it. Like it, you know, drawing, it's very, very, very time consuming, and it requires a great deal of patience to do well. You know, like to do it at the elite level, like you have to be very patient, you know? And then music, there's more of like an immediate gratification in music. But the thing with music that is truly, well, music production in general, the thing for me that is truly addictive is that sometimes you make some shit and you have no idea how you did it. It is just magic, you know? And then it's just like, wow, like you just get to swim in this like magic world, you know? And these things happen out of nowhere that are complete happenstance that just turn into incredible pieces of art or whatever. I always say this. Well, I repeat this, but I have an idol in Tori Amos. She's one of my favorite artists of all time, and there's this interview with her where she's talking about how, you know, we're all just antennas. You know, every artist is an antenna, and it's not really you, so to speak, that's creating this thing so much as you're a receptor for these things that are floating out there in the universe. And certain people just have certain frequencies to pull in, and they're tuned to certain frequencies, and they pull in these things from the ether and they create these things. So it's like she would sit every day for 2 hours in her studio and just wait and dick around, and maybe nothing happens that day, but then one day something happens, and that was the day that she had her antenna up waiting for lightning to strike. And that's literally what we all do as artists, you know? Yeah. And so when I make music, that's what it feels like, you know?
Yeah, that's dope. That's dope. So we're going to back up a little bit to talk about, you know, how not everyone who knows you, but probably like 90% of the folks who, maybe even more than that, who know you, it's almost impossible, or it is impossible, to separate your name from QN5. And so I'm just curious to know, and matter of fact, let's back up even further, because I'm jumping ahead. Just tying into the last thing, because we were talking about what brings you joy. One thing that you do, that anyone who knows you personally, and you know, and then people who know you through the music, who know you through the QN5 records and all of that stuff, you're known for doing these crazy impressions, right? Like, you've done impressions of me, Ice-T, you know what I mean? Aaron Neville, like, bro, Aaron
Neville.
yeah, you know, it's like, man, like classic. I think of so many moments hanging out where you do one of these voices, man, and it's so accurate. Yeah. And so it got me to wondering, when we look at your bio and we look at all of the hyphens, right? Like all of the different things. And that was, no pun intended, you know what I mean? That was a project of his, hyphen. But yeah, when we look at all the things you do, I've always wondered why you never got into voice acting. So,
because you're like, so good.
Yeah, like, have you ever considered it? Like, and you know, if so, like, why or why not? Like, you know.
Bring back Squeegee.
I have nothing to do with Squeegee. Right. I don't know who does Squeegee's voice. I mean, okay, I'll put it this way. My entire life, literally my entire life, people are like, you should do radio. You should do, voice acting. My entire life, not once has ever anybody been like, hey man, I have this job for you. Could you do like a voiceover for that? Never once. And so one day, years ago, I was like, all right, well, let me look into this, let me actually see what it requires. And then I saw that it was basically just like a bunch of rappers making mixtapes of their voice demos, trying to get people to pay attention, tweeting their shit. I was like, I don't have the energy to try to get famous in another industry. Like, it is the same hustle. And I'm like, I've already put in so much work on this music shit. I don't have the energy to try to get known as a voice actor. Look, I will never turn down a dope opportunity to do something. And if anybody hears what I've done, or what I feel like I have plenty of shit out there, where there would be a great demo, but I just feel like it's another hassle to try to break into a new industry that I just never bothered. Does that make any sense?
Yeah. No, definitely 100%.
I would like to though, I would love that.
You'd be great. You'd be great at it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
For sure. Yeah, man, I was listening to the old EFAM album the other day, and I'm telling my boy as we're listening, and he was like, "Wait, that's Tone?" I was like, "Yeah." And then another thing plays. He was like, "Wait, that's Tone?" I was like, "Yeah, that's also Tone." You know what I'm saying? But yeah, man, definitely. If someone's listening now and you got some work for Tone, I
can do some voices. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Hit the link.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem, bro.
Absolutely. Tony, you talked about the industry, and you've been in it for several years, right? And I'm sure it's left a bad taste in your mouth. Pause.
You don't have to say pause. You're a woman. You can say it again. No, I'm just kidding.
It was only due time, people. It was only due time.
Yeah,
it was only due time.
Sorry.
But no, you've been in the industry for so long, and obviously, you know, it has its peaks and valleys. But you decided, you know, long ago, many, many years ago, to start your own label, QN5 Music. What has been, you know, its impact over the years? I mean, you guys have created a whole culture around this label, behind this brand, you know, from the color, you know, the baby blue, to the number of artists that have been signed to your label. Like, what inspired it, for one? What inspired it to start? And then what do you think its lasting legacy will be?
Well, firstly, I want to shout out all the Blue Schoolers that are still listening, that are still supporting. And even as like all the artists have splintered off, you know, like they're still getting support from the OG Blue Schoolers. And that makes me so happy, you know? So like, I think why I started it was essentially I had been through the major label system for years and years and years prior to me starting QN5. You know, I had development deals. You know, I've been shopped all over. I have been in the offices of all the power players back in the late 90s, early 2000s, you know, and it was always a thing where they just never, it was always the same thing. We don't know how to market you. Right. Too white for the black people, too fucking too black for the white people, not Spanish enough for the Latinos. They just didn't see it, you know? And so I got incredibly frustrated, and I just decided to start putting my money where my mouth was. And that's it. So like pretty much every dollar I ever made from my day jobs or working whatever career I was in at the time went directly into investing into, you know, QN5. And that's always been true, you know, as always a labor of love. And as somebody who started super duper young and having a kid rap group, and I was on Arsenio Hall when I was 16, like, you know, I've been through the ringer, and there's so much bullshit out there, and there's so much. The record industry is one of the most horrific environments for creatives. It is filled with schemers, scammers, you know, thieves, and leeches, mainly leeches, you know, mainly leeches. So the people that create the art are always getting fucked. And so I wanted to create an environment where, you know, the artists that I saw that had talent and had something to offer the world had an outlet, even if it was a tiny little AM radio station, you know, which was QN5. It's like you really had to dial deep on the radio on AM, way down the dial to find QN5, but like it was there. And I'm really proud of the work that we did, and more importantly, because everybody was like hand selected. Everybody had a common voice in that everybody had a deep love for hip hop and wanted to do something new and interesting. They weren't content with just, you know, the run of the mill shit. And I feel like the connective tissue between the artist and the fans was always the everyman thing. Like there was no scenesters that were QN5 fans, because we weren't scenesters, and scenesters are what are popular, you know, for time. It moves on. And so I think the legacy of it, and the reason why people are still coming back, is because they connect to an everyman quality in it. It is life music for people going through life that don't have any sort of, you know, bullshit personas, and they're not putting fake shit out in the world. It's real music for real life, for real people. And it's still, we're evolving and making that music for them in their periods of time that they're living. So like, it just continues to evolve with the fans. And I think that that's what the legacy is, you know? in terms of all the indie shit, in terms of all like the internet, focused marketing and the way that we did it with the colors and all that, like that was just my marketing background. And you know what I mean? Like just trying to make it all work. But I do think that we will have been written out of the history books in terms of our impact on like the internet hip hop wave, because we just didn't explode past a certain level. But we certainly laid the groundwork for a lot of the things that are current now, like 100%, 1,000%.
Super facts.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
So real quick, so we're gonna pause for a second and come back with more Tonedeff, but we gotta shout out Words, Beats, and Life, who helps power our awesome podcast that we've been doing for 4 seasons now.
Woo-woo.
So yeah, man, we clap it up for that. And so definitely want to shout out Words, Beats, and Life, and we're gonna take a quick break and have a quick ad from them, and then we'll be back with more Tonedeff. All right, everybody hang tight.
My name is Jakia Hall, and I am the Academy Manager and the Fashion Design Teacher. I've always been creative on my own, but being able to actually express it through a medium and being able to showcase to others the type of creativity I had probably helped me in the best way in terms of confidence. I've always been passionate about keeping the youth in the arts. It wasn't really an outlet when I was younger. Being able to showcase that to younger students who at a time may not have someone that is telling them that being an artist is a real career, and also being a Black woman, of course. Being able to be that figure for them and let them know that if I can do it, you can do it, if not better. That's why I'm at Words, Beats, and Life. Enroll in my fashion design class today at wblinc.org/academy.
Yes, and we are back.
Hey.
Shout out once again to Words, Beats, and Life. Thank you for all that you do for the community, for hip hop culture, and all that great stuff, man. Once again, we are back with our brother Tonedeff. And so for this next question, definitely wanted to talk about, we kind of left off with you talking about what Q&5's legacy is, and and clearly through the label, you've supported like a ton of different artists. I've learned a ton from working with you. Anytime someone like shouts me out about like my flow, or like punchlines or any of those things, you know what I mean, I owe a ton to you. To artists like Pac, who kept me sharp, people like Kokai, who encouraged me to use my singing voice more, and I learned techniques from so many of y'all, right? And I know I've seen personally what you've done, not just for me, but what you've done for a ton of artists. But what we don't sometimes get to talk about is like who have been those people for you, right? Like who have you personally learned from? Who's mentored you over the years, and like what's the best piece of advice any of those folks have given you?
Wow, I never thought about that. I have never really had anybody to kind of show me the way, and I kind of feel like that's how I've like trailed off so far into the forest. I'm just making this shit up as I go, really. My neither of my parents was, into any, they never were like pushing me to do any of it, or, like my family generally doesn't even know that what my song titles are. Like nobody cares, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so I've always just sort of looked towards artists that I love and respect, and try to pick them apart and use them as sort of like guides, Oh, like what's Bjork doing? Like what's Tom York doing? What's what's James Blake doing? What's Sone doing? You know, like I look to see and I what they're doing, and I'm like, oh, okay, like I can figure out how to do what they do so that I can incorporate some of those things into hip hop. You know, so you know, I obviously I've surrounded myself with some incredibly talented fucking people. Substantial, you know, I've listen, I've blown plenty of smoke you know, in your direction, because you're Substantial is like one of the greatest living MCs on the planet, and it is immensely frustrating for me that more people don't know that, you know. But I've surrounded myself with brothers and who are also incredible artists, you know, Noah from Cunninlynguists, Deacon the Villain, you know, like these are all people that I listen to as a fan and I respect and I love. So the privilege of being able to like send music over and like get quick feedback, or like, is this terrible, or like, you know, and hearing when somebody builds you up, that propels you forward. For sure. And so, yeah, I've kind of needed to surround myself with other artists that I love and respect. But in terms of like, you know, like mentors and stuff like that, I really haven't had any, unfortunately. I wish I did. So like with Lucy, you know, Lucy Camp is an artist that I work with, you know, I'm trying to help her career, like cut through all the bullshit and like just get to the, get as far and as fast, get as far as she can, as fast as she can with her career, because, you know, I wasted so many years trying to like figure it out on my own, you know? Yeah. So.
Nah, I feel you. I definitely feel you. And since you brought her up, you know, shout out to Lucy Camp. If for those of you listening to the show right now, if you're not familiar with Lucy Camp, definitely check her out. Tone is very selective with who he works with and who he co-signs. He doesn't like a lot. I'm joking. He like, right. There's plenty of things Tone likes, but but he's very selective, right? That's
a very diplomatic way to say that.
Yeah.
I'm a hater. You know, just say it, Stan.
Right. And it's like Tone's like, everything except this. This is cool, but everything else.
He curates.
Yeah, he's curating.
Yes.
He's curating the hell out of things.
Thank you, Shell.
And so, you know, but Lucy has been somebody who's managed to cut through and like, you know, obviously like get opportunities doing a lot of work with you. You've been producing a ton of her records. You've been releasing things through your imprint, your new imprint, or newish imprint, Quintic. So talk about that. Like how did that come together? Like, why did you create Quintic, and what's it like working with Lucy?
I'll try to tackle that in order. So with Quintic, I felt a need to sort of like create a fresh slate from a branding perspective that would allow me to kind of make music that wasn't specifically catered to a hip hop audience. You know, I wanted people to kind of not have any of the baggage, the hip hop boom bap backpacker baggage that they may have associated mentally with QN5. And so with Quintic, I wanted it to be genreless music, you know, feel based. Like it doesn't like, don't think, just feel, you know? And that was the whole idea with that. So, you know, eventually I will put out a Peter Anthony Red fully sung project, and it will be under Quintic, under a different name. And people will be like, yo, why ain't he rhyming? This is like, you know, I'm trying to avoid all that. Thank you for the claps. Clap it up. You know, I'm trying to avoid all of that shit. So you kind of have to create these partitions with your own body of work so that to avoid confusion, you know, just in terms of how people listen to music. Your fans are always going to know what you're doing, period. You know, but if for newbies, when they come in, you know, if they're hearing a Peter Anthony Red record where he's singing and playing piano, and then the next thing I'm doing like hyper speed raps at 192 beats per minute, they're gonna be like, what is happening here? You know, this doesn't work on my playlist, you know? So you ruined the party, bro. So like, so that was the need for that. So with Lucy, the way that I ended up finding her is Amplify from Hectic Zeniths, he's an amazing producer. He found her Facebook page back in like 2015, something like that. And she had me listed as one of her influences. You know, like you could put influences on Facebook. It was like someone named Rahman Jamal, who I came to find out is a hip hop teacher out in the Bay Area, and Tonedeff. Like those are the two influences that were listed. And he heard her and he was like, she's incredible. And he sent me the link. I saw it. I listened to it, and she had just recorded a mixtape called Virago. And I mean, bro, when I tell you the level of emceeing that she does is like God level flow, I mean it. You know, she gets crazy with it, like hyper technical, you know? And so she was like, I don't know, I think she was like 16 or something like that at the time. And so I reached out and I was like, dude, like, I would love to work with you. Nothing happened for a year. A year later, I saw it pop up on my feed again, just organically. And I emailed this time to a different email that I saw, and she wrote me back, and the rest is history, you know? Wow. So with her, it's been such a great, rewarding experience because, you know, she's like she has a sound and she has a very unique thing to her, but in the process of, she's in the process of collecting her Infinity Stones right now. Yeah, you know, and I'm fucking who's the dude that gets like bodied by by Spider-Man or Doctor Strange, who was helping out Thanos on the shit. I don't know.
Oh yeah, I know exactly what character you're talking about.
You know, the alien face dude, the magician guy?
Yeah.
Right.
The one that Tony Stark's called Squidward.
Squidward, yeah. So I'm Squidward right now. You know, and like I'm essentially assisting in helping, you know, her collect these Infinity Stones. But in that, she's teaching me a lot about stuff that, you know, that's very local, very Bay Area, very, you know, current. You know, she's a queer artist as well, so like I'm learning a lot about that space as well, and it's been an amazing learning experience, and like extremely rewarding when she did do her shows, and she's doing her shows now, and seeing fans connecting with the music, you know, and like coming up to her and she's the star, and I'm like, yes, this is a victory, you know. Man. So, like with Quintic, what I've realized, and just to finish this thought, is, you know, what started as a record label imprint is Ebony Maw. Thank you so much. So what started as a label, I realized, you know, is more of a creative direction house. You know, and so I feel like there's a lot of baggage tied to the idea of a record label, like expectations and this and that. Like I don't want to do that anymore, you know. I just don't. I've done it. I don't want to do it anymore. I'm a creative director, so naturally I should have a creative direction house. I should have essentially a development house, you know, and that's what I do. So my strengths are finding talent, developing talent, and packaging that talent. And so that's what I want to do, and that's where Quintic is now.
That's dope. That's dope, man.
So, Tone, among, again, the many hats that you wear.
All the hats. Outside of the adultish one he's wearing.
Yeah, outside. Right. Back in 2017, you debuted your directorial debut, a documentary, the name Polyoptics, The Formation of Polymer. You get very candid with this project. You really delve deep, right?
Probably too
discuss, you discuss some very personal, you know, challenges that you were going through. Why do you think? What made that release? I guess the question is, what was it that you felt? What was going on at that time that you felt like, you know what, I'm ready to be vulnerable, right? And really express to your fans, you know, what is it that you were going through? Why did you feel so comfortable that you wanted to be able to share that?
I think it was the idea that, like, you have to sort of hyper articulate what it is that you're doing as an artist now. in order for anybody to understand any of it. Like everything is so disposable and vapid that nobody places any sort of importance or reverence on your work because there's literally every minute there's 400,000 pieces of content uploaded to the internet, and I'm supposed to care, you know? And so when I was making the movie, it was sort of like a dual attempt at trying to make, well, a triple attempt at trying to make a dope movie, which is really hard. And secondly, trying to tell my entire life story, which nobody knew. You know, I never talked about anything personal about my family or none of that shit on any of my records, ironically. And thirdly, to kind of highlight the technical and thematic feats that was the project, you know, and spelling it out for people so that they could parrot that to somebody else and be like, did you know he did this thing? Because I watched a documentary where he said, you know what I mean? And so like, you kind of have to spell it out for people. And so the movie was like an artistic way to kind of do that, you know, a triple Lutz, you know?
It was beautiful. It was beautiful. It was high
really
quality.
well done,
It was very well done. You did a
Thank you.
fantastic job.
That shit killed me, bro. Like that shit killed me. Like, I'm very happy that you enjoyed the film. And like, I recently took to Instagram. I was just like, bro, like, I don't think anybody's seen this movie, and I like killed myself trying to make this movie. You know, I did a premiere for the whole thing in a movie theater, like, you know, and like, I just remember how drained I was at that premiere. I was empty. I was just like, I had just every piece of creative energy had just been drawn from me in making a record and the movie. You know, it's like, you know how many fucking people it takes to make a movie? I did it alone, you know? And like, while I made it and produced and wrote an album and mixed, like, it was just too much. And so I have like a little bit of PTSD with that movie, you know? But I think long term, it'll serve its purpose that I originally intended was to do all those three things. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I'm hoping that down the line, it'll kind of get looked at, you know, the same way that like the making of, not to high post myself here, but the making of like, you know, Hard Day's Night or like Dark Side of the Moon, or, you know, how the fuck did he do it? Oh, there's a movie about it. Right. You know? So yeah. I hope that answers your question.
No, it does. I mean, and the thing is, and I'm going to go right into the next one because I think it works, it ties together. Yeah. You know, we joke all the time, you know, us as creatives, you especially, you know, being a workaholic, like doing it all.
Or self-professed insomniac. You know?
Yeah, exactly. Self-professed insomniac. Like, and I get it. I get it 100%. It's like, you know, instead of sometimes reaching out for help or support, sometimes you just might as well do it yourself because you know what you want, and it's like you have to train or you have to tell people, and it's like it's just too much work, so you just might as well do it yourself. What lessons have you learned from that process that now, or are you focusing on
self-care,
on self-care?
Yeah, and prioritizing
because doing what you've done, obviously, you know, you turned out a great project, but it's not sustainable. It's not sustainable for our health. And so
not at all.
And for our and when I say your mental health, your physical health, your spiritual health. So what are you doing now to prioritize self-care?
Well, I spent thousands of dollars on therapy.
There you go.
Right.
There you go.
No, you're 100% right. It was a devastatingly traumatic burnout, you know, to the point where, you know, I remember being at like so-and-so's birthday party and, get on stage. And I was like, my whole body would just shut down. I was like I couldn't. And this is something that I duck to water normally. I don't care. But like just the idea of getting on a stage or rapping in front of people is like, and that's like something is deeply wrong, you know? And so I had to kind of take a very sort of long break and find my love again and find the energy again. So a lot of therapy, basically. And the hardest thing for me is the perfectionism. And like, after making that project, I realized that, like, dude, 70% of the shit I did on the record just went over everybody's head. Like, nobody will ever pick it apart, find what I did. Will never be able to. It's just like, there are certain things, like little things, like, what is track 8? Glutton. Gluttons eat. Track number 8. Little things like that.
Yeah.
First song, the things you don't see coming. Last song, control. You don't have control of the things you don't see coming.
Right.
As a book ended. Like, there is so much thought put into all of this shit that nobody ever notices. And so now I've gotten to a point where I'm like, I gotta stop obsessing and caring this much, because nobody is gonna care. So why am I killing myself? Literally killing myself. Sleep deprivation is so bad for you.
Yeah.
Like, I might as well be an alcoholic. You know, like, and I got heart problems in my family, so it's like, it's not worth the damage I'm doing to my health.
Yeah.
To like push it. So what I'm learning through therapy is just like, can I be okay with putting it out just like this? It doesn't have to be mixed down to within an inch of a decibel, an inch of a frequency. You know, it's okay. Yeah. This is okay. Yeah. It's okay. It's enough. You know? Yeah.
Man,
you feel me?
I feel you. Like, I talk. I do a weekly thing with my audience over on my YouTube channel, and I tell them all the time, like, like, you kill yourself doing a thing, and just for people to, like, you understand that they have a certain relationship with certain songs of yours and stuff like that. And what I've found, like, it's like when we study our own history, our own journey, like, I find that the songs I put the least amount of care into a lot of times are the ones that people love the most, right? And it's wild, because people say they want art, say they want people to push boundaries, this, that, and the third, but, like, it's... Yeah. I find I definitely have struggled with that over the years, because the times I do it, right, and the songs off the time that, like, are, like, required the least amount of thought, right? I put the least amount of effort into the things that are arguably the more marketable things, right? Like, in terms of, like, easier to digest, blah, 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 more palatable, blah. And so, I find myself calling bullshit a lot when I hear people talking about it. And what I've learned too is, like, sometimes
the reaches, so many reaches when I hear people talk about other artists. I'm like, oh, that's such a reach. You guys are so reaching right now. Anyway, sorry, didn't mean to cut you off.
No, but you're absolutely right. Yeah. It seems like they oftentimes, they're so critical of you, right? A person who has far less resources, who has, who it requires so much more of you to do things that are far beyond what people in the mainstream, or who have the like, not an infinite amount of resources, but more than you. And somehow, like, people are far more critical of folks who have far less. And I just find that really, really interesting, man. I remember a particular artist. I ain't gonna throw this artist under the bus. I am a fan of their stuff, but I found it really interesting when they finally dropped their quote unquote solo album. I'm just looking at how excited everyone, like, was, and this, that, and the third, and I had been waiting on it too. And when I heard it, I was just so unimpressed, bro. I was just like, nah, this ain't it. Like, fam, we've been waiting how long? Like, this ain't it.
Yeah.
And then people looking at me like I was crazy, like I was hating, and I was just like, nah, bro, I've been waiting for as long as you have. I know what type of resources they have access to. They've done stuff prior to this that sounds way better than this does, and they didn't have the resources then.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not impressive. But last part of this, right? People were talking about, this is in March of that particular year. They're like, oh, it's album of the year. It's going to be this, that, and the third. I was like, yo, mark my words, fam. Mark my words. No one's going to be talking about this record by the end of the year. No one. And the wild thing is, right, that's exactly what happened. Because, you could tell when you listen to it, like if you kind of put your own, like tamed your own excitement just a little bit because the person finally did the thing they were supposed to do 8 years prior, right? And yeah, bro, like it's hard to love this game. It's really, really hard to love it. It's hard to keep doing it when you witness things like that, when you put so much and pour so much.
That's something. Yeah, that's something I feel like, especially as MCs, because there is a competitive nature in MCing, like at the root, you know. It's letting go of a lot of that stuff. Oh, there you go. It was, yes. Like letting go of the idea of somebody getting something that you deserve. Right? There's like this like internalized entitlement that we all have as artists. It's like, I put time into my craft. I am good. I should get this thing. Why is this person getting it? You know, when you realize, and I did very early on, was, you know, the whole shit is high school. It's a popularity contest. So-and-so's dating so-and-so. It's all gossip and bullshit. And when I see like rap Twitter and all this kind of shit, it's just a bunch of like people that don't understand what they're talking about, looking for acceptance from other people that don't know what they're talking about. It's the blind leading the blind, you know. And then it becomes like, who's your favorite rapper? And then it just becomes fucking the name game. I'm just gonna name everybody I know so I feel relevant. It's just like, dude, like it's is not everybody can't. This is not a list. You're just naming shit. This is not objective. It's all bullshit. All of it is bullshit. It has nothing to do with the art. The music industry is completely bullshit. It has nothing to do with art. Nothing. I can't repeat this enough. The music industry has nothing to do with art. If you are an artist, make art and stop trying to succeed in the music industry.
Yeah.
It's
the industry. It's social collateral more than anything else, right? Like it seems like folks, it seems like for the listener, like it's very much more about social collateral. Like, you know, what, and there's another term that defines it even better. It's basically like, you know, this piece of thing, this particular thing, regardless to how good, great, whatever I deem it to be, like, you know, me liking this, like, what is it going to do for me? Like, how is it going to make me look amongst my peers?
Yeah,
right.
100%.
When I talk about, and so
you can't even have a difference of opinion in hip hop. Like everybody's looking for consensus, you know, and it's bullshit. It's truly bullshit, especially now because, you know, none of these motherfuckers got real friends in the real world. Like they're just on Twitter. You know, it's like we used to have to go to school and like fight people if we had. It's like nowadays. You know, and people just agree now because otherwise, you know, you get fucking canceled. But like, it's just it's bullshit, and you're 1,000% right. So like, I have like really worked hard on stopping caring about all the music industry shit and like what people say about this and this and that because nobody knows what the fuck they're talking about. You're gonna tell me. Look, I'm 46 years old. I've seen almost every instance of hip hop that has ever been created. You're gonna tell me what good hip hop is?
Right.
That's you're gonna go to the fucking. You're gonna go to MoMA and tell the fucking gallery director what art is. You're gonna go to you're gonna go to fucking Egypt to the tour guide and tell him like, you know, where the fucking the tomb of fucking, you know, whatever.
Right.
You know, you can't. There becomes a point as an artist where you just know too much.
Yeah.
to like have a regular conversation with somebody. And that's
this is
it.
a perfect segue because we were actually, hip hop, as we know, this year marks its 50th anniversary.
Clap it up for hip hop.
Clap it up for hip hop. As a student, a self-professed student of hip hop, what would you say are some of the things that stand out to you in the 50 years, right, and that we've been experiencing and living it? What are some of the things that stand out to you, and how has hip hop impacted your life?
I think I said this at some point. I forget when, but it was like training your entire life to get into like the most incredibly difficult to get into academy, and then realizing that the academy had sold all of the degrees to everybody on eBay, and it was a fucking mail order diploma school, and then you'd be like, wait, what happened?
Right.
It was one of those deals.
You went to Trump University?
And find out you went to Trump University on some real shit, like for real. In a nutshell, the one line I always say is, hip hop, the counterculture became the culture of counting. This was a counterculture. As a kid, that's what that's how I grew up in it. Sampling is illegal. You know what I mean? Tagging is vandalism. Like all of it is, it's illegal. Like it's not, the culture itself is like we created a culture and a music out of shit you're not supposed to do.
Right.
You know what I mean? And like now it has been so co-opted to the point where all of the soul has been sucked out of it. Like all of the heart and soul of the culture has been sucked out. It's been so disappointing, so sad to see what hip hop became, but the positives I will say are it did change so many lives, and it did save a lot of people. And I found my brothers through it. I found my family through it. And so it's like, and I did find myself through it. So when I talk about hip hop, I'm not talking about rap music. I'm not talking about hip hop culture, blah, 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 because that shit changes day to day. And it's the place where it is now is not whatsoever how it was intended from the architects of it. So like, I'm not even going to get into that. I just know, to me, the art of the crafts of the elements, to me, the beauty that is in the elements was the greatest thing that ever came out of it.
Yeah.
Truly.
Well said. Well said.
Man. Well, that being said, right? Like, and this might be tough, right? Because as someone who loves it as much as you do, and who's also been hurt by it, right? Or let down by it from time to time, or time and time again. Like, what advice do you give someone who's just starting out, who's looking to become like a hip hop artist?
Listen to everything. Make what you love. Truly make what you love. And do not listen to what people tell you. Because nobody knows what they're talking about. Make what is in your heart. Just make what is in your heart. If people knew the amount of inner turmoil I went through when I was making like Archetype, or I was just like, I'm going to sing on this song. Dude, they used to like gay bash you if you sang on a rap record, like straight up, like, and now, and so I was coming out of like battle rapping, so it was like, it was even worse. Like that was a bigger sin, It's like finding out the Pope gets his dick sucked. It's like, what? You can't do that, So like, it's just like, you can't do that. It's wrong, burn him alive. So like, you weren't allowed to do any of this shit. And it's like, I felt so much fear as a young creative, and like, feel the fear and do it anyway.
Yeah.
Mix it all.
Because
there is no genre.
Yeah, and now all of those things that you were dragged for doing, right? 'Cause
everywhere.
It's commonplace now, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and I mean, that's the struggle, right? Like you being true to yourself. Like, I mean, you got dragged and ridiculed for doing it. First through the glass gets the bloodiest, right?
Yeah.
And then meanwhile, folks come behind you and almost do the exact same thing, and they get praised and they're rewarded for it. And so, like if there was ever a person to listen to that, like take that advice and run with it. I mean, Tone knows firsthand. I mean, I had a front row seat for it. So, because we were all, man, I remember listening after hearing 2 or 3 projects of yours and hearing the songs where you were singing on it. As amazing as you're an amazing MC. But I would hear those songs. I was like, bro, I'm looking forward to the day you do a full record of this, because a lot of times these are my favorite songs on the record. And and I love the other songs where you're rapping your ass off. But I'm like, man, like when I would hear those, I'm like, this is Tone.
Yeah.
Right? Like you do. That's also Tone. But I feel like, it's like you're really like giving us everything in a lot of those tracks. And so,
thank you.
Yeah, man.
Like Porcelain.
Porcelain is he's still rapping on that, but I'm thinking of like,
there's a good deal singing on it.
There is.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And shout out to Alan Z, who's in the comments now. Like, folks, remember that name, because you'll see why me referencing Porcelain and then Alan Z being here with Tonedeff here, all will make sense to you in a bit of time.
Yes, I don't want to give too much away, and I'll let him do it. But essentially, yes, Alan Z is connected to the song Porcelain. You should go look
and
up.
I didn't even know that. See, I didn't even know that, and I said it. But see, I be knowing.
That's why you gotta keep the wisdoms around.
Wisdoms, bro.
Telling you.
Yeah.
Don't sleep, okay? Don't sleep.
Yo.
Although, Tone, you should sleep. You should sleep, though.
I should.
Yeah.
I really should. I really should more.
So here's a question for someone who's tuning in right now. What does Tone love most about Cinder, and what is its significance on Polymer?
Wow.
So essentially, like Cinder started as just like a little random interlude. I'd found this one synth patch, but I wanted to have this moment where the whole record's about time. It was on Demon originally, and the whole thing is about time management, and stress, and anxiety, and all this kind of shit. And it's like time is relevant, right? In a lot of spaces. We're gonna get into fucking time is a flat circle. We're gonna get deep here for a minute, right? So like the idea of Cinder was your life as an ember. I had just like sped rap the shit out of like Demon on the song Demon itself. Crazy. And then like I just wanted a moment where you could just fester. It's like spiritually fester and kind of linger, and you're spent, and all that's left of your soul is just like going up as an ember, and like sort of being cognizant of time as these embers kind of burn heavily, and then they burn out like every second. It comes, it's in the present, and then it's out of time, it fades out. And that's what every ember is, right? So Cinder is like, the fragments of your soul in the moment as they fade away, So what I love the most about that particular track is that, it is as close to like a synthwave M83 record that you could possibly make, and it's on a hip hop album. You know what I mean? And it really is that sort of like spiritual, like reprieve after after the song prior. So it definitely has its like significance in the track listing. But yeah, I really wanted to kind of touch on the idea of like the temporal nature of life, and how it exists in the space of time. That makes any sense.
Super dope. Another great one. Someone mentioned the homie Stephanie Gale was talking about Fast. I used to play the hell out of Fast. Such a
Good
great
looking out.
song. Yeah, for sure. So I think with us, you were just talking about, the track Demon and how fast you were rapping on that, which leads us to our rapid fire questions.
Hey, I see what you did there.
Right?
I see what you did
I'm
there.
saying? We're doing rapid fire questions with Tone. All
Okay.
right, you want to set it off?
Yes, so we have 4 questions
We're
for
starting
you.
with food, though.
Yes. I was going to say something, but I'm going to leave it there.
Don't you do it.
I'm not gonna do it.
Don't you do it. You know who we're talking to. Yeah, don't
I
you
almost
do
forgot
it.
who I was talking to, so I can't do it.
Right.
All right. So, question 1. So we're going to give you 2 options, and you decide which one you want to go with. Now you are a man that lives in New York City, but you haven't always lived in New York City. You've lived in Florida. You lived in Chicago. So we're going to give you 2 choices: Cuban sandwich or chopped cheese.
Cuban sandwich.
Okay. All right.
All
Cool.
right, you got to rep for the people. For the people.
Let's stay
Like
with food.
with no hesitation.
Okay. All right. Respect it. Let's stay with food for a second. So this next one, chips and guac or tacos and chocolate milk.
Hey.
Definitely chips and guac because I have a kosher stomach and I ain't trying to blow anybody's bathroom up. You know what I'm saying?
And for anyone who isn't a long time blue schooler who doesn't know, tacos and chocolate milk was a groundbreaking podcast by Tonedeff and Pac FM.
Yeah,
Shout out to all the
yeah.
blue
Pac.
schoolers who know. Yeah, man.
Shout out to Pac. All right, question number 3. Watchmen graphic novel or The Walking Dead comics?
Oh God. Oh man. The Walking Dead comics are so good. But the artistic achievement, it's Watchmen all day. Like
Okay.
the technical achievement of Watchmen is just fucking crazy. Like it just it doesn't even make sense to people. Like it's just so crazy. But The Walking Dead is just it's great television, man. On paper.
Right, on paper. Right. Way to clean it up. Right. Last one. All right. And this is, we try to make it tough for you. But Tom York or James Blake?
Oh, God. I love both. I think Tom York all day. Tom York is just... I mean, yeah. There is no world where James Blake can hold Tom York's fucking cup of water.
Yeah, I figured, but I was like, but I know you do love them both. And see, I'd be a jerk to be like Tom York or Tori Amos. Yeah.
Oh, man.
See what I'm saying? So I tried not to go there, but since you were so short, sure. I'm like, well,
We try to be nice.
I don't even want to answer that shit. Like, I'm going to get so much hate.
Right.
No,
if we
no,
were on Drink Champs, you'd be taking a sip of something right now.
Fucking Tom York is one of my favorite all time artists ever.
Yeah, man.
He's so versatile, man. He's so versatile.
Yeah,
and we have a lot of similar like bends towards like electronic music and weird sad piano shit. So like,
Yeah.
Okay.
For sure. Good job.
There you go. Good job. See, we didn't hurt you too bad. We didn't hurt you too bad.
man.
We try to keep it somewhat light.
You guys are so kind.
Right.
Aw, thank you.
I love you guys. You're the best.
We love you back.
Yeah,
So,
man.
thank you so much for being here. Before we let you go, what's next for you? This is your time. Time to shine.
And I think I know what's next, so I'll bring these up on the screen.
Oh, look at this!
But just in case,
Because we do our homework.
We pay attention. We care, Tone. We care.
It's amazing. I feel loved. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, essentially, this Friday, Definitions Volume 3 will drop. I've been working heavy past couple weeks, just getting everything mixed up, mastered, blah, 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 blah. So this Friday, Definitions Volume 3 will drop, and it is a collection of pre-existing instrumentals from pre-existing songs that haven't had instrumentals before. So they're going to come out on Friday. On July 7th, Definitions Volume 4 is my very first from scratch all instrumental record created specifically to be an instrumental record. So
Wow.
I've been really excited about it. Like all the stuff we were talking about during quarantine and all that, like this is a lot of the stuff that came out of that time period is going to be on this record. So I'm hella fucking excited to put out Definitions Volume 4, July 7th. So you can go pre-order right now, tonedeff.com. And then after that, I'm getting ready to do my fully sung album, Hyperrealism, under the name Peter Anthony Red. And obviously we got Lucy's Patreon. We put out a brand new song every month. So go check that out.
Dope. Awesome. And last question from a fan. They wanted to know, what's your favorite track from the forthcoming Definitions Volume 4?
There's one called Organism that I absolutely love. That is like, I cannot stop playing it. It's just, I'm like, wow, I made this? Like, I'm so excited. I did that. Right. So yeah. Thank you for that question. I'm really amped to put out like a production record, because I feel like that's something, as you know, Stan, that people generally sleep on the production when you're an MC and you produce. You know what I'm saying? So
absolutely.
So yeah, I'm excited for that.
Yeah, man. Hey, man, thank you so much, man. You know, always a pleasure chopping it up with you. And, you know what I mean? Thanks. You know, I'm sure there's a ton of artists like me, you know what I mean? Like, who had the pleasure of working with you in some capacity. So thank you for all you do, bro. Like, I know a lot of times you feel like it goes greatly. It's like, you know, it's underappreciated a lot of times, but the folks who know, you know, I tell people all the time, I was like, man, go where the love is, right? And so, and I know for a fact, man, there's a ton of fans out here who love you. There's a ton of folks like myself who love you and love what you've done, what you've, how much you've given to this culture. And so just wanted to salute you, man, give you your flowers and stuff, man.
Clap it up.
You
clap
know?
it up.
Yeah, absolutely. Clap it up, man.
I love that clap sound. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem.
You guys are amazing. Seriously, it's great to have a forum like this for creatives to get in depth with like the technical shit about creative life. So this is a great lane. Keep working this. You know what I'm saying?
Thank you, man.
And thank you so much for having me on. For real.
Absolutely. No, this has been great. Thank you all so much for joining us. We see you on YouTube. We see you on Facebook. We see you, those that join us in later. We appreciate you. Thank you so much for joining us for Artistry. Tone, stick around. For the rest of y'all, we will see you next week. And next week, who do we have? We have, let me think about it.
I was going to say, because I don't know. We got a lot of dope folks this season, and I could not remember.
We do. So next week, we do have an R&B artist by the name of Millen.
Yeah. Shout out to Millen.
So dope.
Yes, very, very dope. And then, you know, for the ladies, we haven't forgotten about you. I know it seems like a sausage party, but trust me.
Closing out the season strong with the women.
With the ladies. So the ladies will be represented. So definitely stay tuned. For the rest of y'all, thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next Wednesday. Same bat time.
Same bat channel.
Bat channel.
And before we go, real quick, just wanted to give everyone heads up.
Shameless plug.
Yeah, you know, because there's a lot of things going on. Tings going on. Yeah, we're going to throw this up on the screen real quick. And so, yeah, man, just a reminder that you can pre-order Adultish right now, the new album, which is actually mixed and mastered by our guest today, Mr. Tonedeff.
Yes.
Yeah, man, and definitely record would not be the same without his contribution. So shout out to my brother Tone for all the work he put in on Adultish. But yeah,
listen, people, like, here's my second endorsement after the hat. Go buy this album, like, right now. It is so fucking dope. Like, it's beyond. This is Stan's magnum opus. He produced it. He wrote it.
Man.
It is a fucking incredible album. Do not sleep. Also, the creative direction, the artwork, like, look at this. It's gorgeous. The whole thing is just master class artistry. Just go support Substantial, please. This album's amazing.
And I'm gonna go ahead and try not to cry as we wrap up the episode. Oh, Yeah, man. One second. We had a little technical glitch that just happened, so give it 1 second to bring it back around.
We put too much love in the world, and we broke all the technology.
Son.
That's what happened.
I don't know what just happened, but man, listen, man, we appreciate you so much, bro. Thank you for being on the show, man. To everybody else, man, y'all stay tuned for the next episode next week with our guest Millen. Yeah, man, y'all have a great night, and we're gonna close you out with some good old exit music. All right, y'all. Peace.
Peace.
Thanks for listening to Artistry, where art meets industry. Season 4 of Artistry is powered by Words, Beats, and Life. Visit www.wblinc.org to learn more. This podcast is produced by Substantial Art and Music. For more information, please visit www.subartandmusic.com. You can also follow us on social media at Sub Art and Music. Peace.